With COVID-19 still ravaging the world and its impact on the global economy, governments across the world will continue to face economic challenges. Hence, the need for immediate and long-term action to stabilize global economy and ensure sustainable recovery. This has been the major focus of the Davos 2022 agenda, with world leaders brainstorming, including Nigeria's Vice President, Yemi Oshibajo. The federal government has launched the Nigeria COVID-19 Action, Recovery and Economic Stimulus to be implemented with a $750 million World Bank facility. This will invariably complement federal government social investment programs. The program will avail states with $20 million, while the Federal Capital Territory will receive $15 million. And the era of pyramids is back. What will definitely come to mind talking about pyramid is the Granite Pyramid of Kano in the 6 states. But now we're talking about rice pyramids of the Federal Capital Territory. While unveiling the pyramids, President Muhammadu Buhari staunchly believes that Nigeria is gradually achieving its food sufficiency drive. The issue of fuel subsidy has been a subject of discourse since the federal government dropped the hint that it intends to remove it this year. Reactions from different segments have been trailing the move. Latest among them is a comment by a former head of state, General Abdulsalame Abubakar. A complimentary segment talking about export tips and capital market review will always be part of the package. This is our focus on today's edition. I am Shikeola Ipinaye, welcoming you to Business 24. The FCT Mega Rice Pyramid, considered as the largest in Africa, has been unveiled by President Muhammadu Buhari. It is the product of his administration's Rice Revolution drive, powered by the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The president described the pyramid as a clear indication that the homegrown policy targeted at securing food for raw Nigerians is achieving desired objectives.
The mega pyramids, 13 in number, were built with 1 million bags of paddy rice planted and harvested from states across Nigeria under the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria. They are a fraction of those submitted by rice farmers as repayment of loans collected under the program, symbolizing their commitment to its sustainability. From here, these bags of paddy rice will be moving to rice millers, and the government will track the release of their output to the markets as it strives to not only manage inflation but also grow the rice value chain.
These accomplishments also show that with the right leadership and vision, we can meet any and every challenge in our country. And this must become our preeminent preoccupation going forward.
Mr. President, there is no adjective that is strong enough to thank you for what you have done to this country. And Nigerians will continue to appreciate your presence as the president of this country to the end of time.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, the significance of the event can be better understood by looking at the various economic strides achieved by his administration through agriculture. He said the Anchor Borrowers Program in particular has supported over 4.8 million smallholder farmers for the production of 23 agricultural commodities, including rice, whose production has increased to over 9 million metric tons per annum.
Our gathering here today is no doubt a testament to the fact that the Anchor Borrowers Program is working. Our country is making steady and assured progress towards self-sufficiency in food production. As a critical policy of the government, the Anchor Borrowers Program is expected to catalyze the agricultural productive base of the nation, which is a major part of our economic plan to uplift the economy, create jobs, and conserve foreign exchange.
The President appreciated the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the leadership of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria for the giant strides achieved in the Rice Revolution program, hoping that the FCT Mega Rice Pyramids will just be the first of many to be unveiled this year across Nigeria.
And it is my desired hope and expectation that other agricultural commodity associations that are yet to participate under the Anchor Borrowers Program will emulate the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria in supporting our administration's drive for food self-sufficiency.
Chairman, Nigeria Governors Forum, and some of his colleagues took turns to appreciate President Muhammadu Buhari for his genuine commitment towards achieving food sufficiency and security in the country.
And it was clear to us that agriculture was going to be the centerpiece of the Buhari revolution.
What is not seen here is those millions of households that today are richer and more prosperous courtesy of your rice revolution.
If you didn't do what you did, starting from 2015, it would have been a very difficult situation for our people because hunger breeds anger.
Awards were later presented by President Muhammadu Buhari to the governors and others for their significant contributions to the Rice Revolution program in Nigeria.
Vice President Yemi Oshibajo was among world leaders who addressed the burning issues of global recovery amidst COVID-19 pandemic, continuous inflation, and insecurity in the world.
Mr. Vice President, I'm so delighted to welcome you back following the very successful country strategy dialogue we hosted in November with you. The discovery of Omicron variant late last year is, of course, a reminder that the world is still not out of the woods when it comes to the pandemic, which may negatively impact the world economy and widen inequality if we fail to implement a global response. The good news is that Africa's potential remains undiminished. Over the next 3 decades, the global population is set to grow by about 2 billion people, with 1 billion of those coming from the African continents. Africa will have the world's fastest growing working age population with a considerable potential for highly productive, fast-growing economies, and many of the young Africans are so tech-savvy. So that looks good, and indeed, Africa's rapid economic and social change will give the continent a bigger role in global affairs and the global economy, and of course, Nigeria plays a major role here. Mr. Vice President, many of foreign partners and global viewers are highly interested in your vision for the year ahead. Mr. Vice President, the floor is yours, and we're so happy to welcome you back.
The health and economic crisis caused by the pandemic clearly slowed down progress in many areas. But as the world emerges slowly from the health and economic crisis caused by the pandemic, a number of important lessons have been learned. most obvious lesson, of course, is that it has proved impossible for individual countries to contain the virus as long as there are outbreaks in other parts of the world. Similarly, we learned that disruptions in supply chains in one part of the world inevitably affect other parts of the world. And I know that might sound obvious, but I think it was driven home very powerfully, especially in the last few months. It's a matter of regret, therefore, that in spite of increased collaboration in terms of sharing knowledge and scientific information around the virus, the world has been unable to arrange a coordinated global response to ensure the availability of vaccines for all. Similarly, although past experience would have counseled the need for coordinated action in response to the global economic shock caused by the pandemic, responses were mostly at the individual country level, with the effect that efforts to stimulate economic activity through fiscal and monetary policy actions and health sector interventions were uneven across the world, and in the case of African countries, barely adequate. Nevertheless, like most parts of the world, Africa is beginning to recover. The continent grew by 3.7% last year and is set to grow by 3.8% in 2022. Indeed, as the last frontier in development, Africa has the potential to become the factory of the world, especially given its bold steps to integrate through the African Union Agenda 2063 and the African Continental Free Trade Area agreements. There are several other reasons, I think, to be positive about the African growth story, given that its large youth population holds the prospect of a demographic dividend, and also by giving greater space and providing more opportunity to the private sector. The continent is also making giant strides in agriculture, in manufacturing, and digital technology. In Nigeria, for instance, 6 unicorns have emerged in the past 6 years. And this is despite all of the challenges in these past years. Such a positive outlook, anyway, must be tempered by the realization that Africa continues to need the collaboration and partnership of the international community. Because unless care is taken, there are a number of developments that can derail that progress. And I'll just mention a few of those. The first is peace and security. African countries face a serious threat of terrorism arising from the encroachment of global terror groups and their franchises into Africa. And as the pandemic has shown, we live in an interrelated world. So the international community must not sit by and allow Africa to be overrun by terrorists, be it in the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, or indeed Southern Africa. It's imperative for the international community to make more robust interventions to clear terrorists from Africa, just as it did in the Middle East and other parts of the world. The United Nations Security Council must find unanimity in working with and assisting African countries to eradicate the menace of terrorism in the continent once and for all. A bit like the coronavirus, terrorism anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere. And we must not allow geopolitical tensions amongst the great powers prevent Africa from getting the help it needs to combat terrorism. The second is climate change and how we respond to it. It's now common knowledge that Africa contributes least to climate change, but has been the most negatively affected by it. We must not allow this worrying situation to be compounded further by global inaction and processes and rules that make it difficult for Africa to adapt to climate change or indeed to develop. This is why the international community must meet its pledge, recently reaffirmed at COP26, of providing $100 billion annually in climate finance to support climate change efforts in developing countries. Although we in Africa are working towards the globally accepted net zero future, we're also conscious that our energy needs are increasing with the growth in our economies. We need to ramp up energy access in response to this situation, which is why the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energies must be just and fair. We're emphatic in our view that natural gas, which Africa has in abundance, must be accepted as a transition fuel. moves in the international community, especially by development finance institutions, to defund gas projects will have severe implications in the medium to long term for African economies and will slow down the process of phasing out more polluting fuels such as coal, diesel, and heavy fuel oil. In addition, of course, to some of the more polluting fuels that are currently used. But also, in addition to climate finance, African economies continue to require assistance to tackle poverty, to access vaccinations, and achieve debt sustainability. Economic recovery in Africa is contingent on the containment of the pandemic, including through widespread vaccinations.
And back home in Nigeria, Vice President Yemi Oshibajo launched the Nigeria COVID-19 Action, Recovery and Economic Stimulus NG CARES, being implemented with the World Bank's $750 million loan.
The economic stimulus program is described as a multi-sectoral program designed to support vulnerable and poor Nigerians. By flagging off the program, Vice President Yemi Oshibajo says it will build on the federal government interventions developed as part of the president's plan, taking 100 million Nigerians out of poverty and in response to the severe socio-economic fallout of the pandemic.
In order to ensure this successful program implementation, the federal government will provide quality assurance, monitoring, capacity building, and technical assistance to states and the FCT on project activities and results. Consequently, the federal government has inaugurated the Federal CARES Steering Committee, the Federal CARES Technical Committee, and the Federal CARES Support Unit to provide overall policy direction, technical support to all the states and FCT, and to advise Mr. President appropriately.
So we are really looking forward to working with federal and state partners over the next 6 months, over the next year, and to the speedy disbursement of the full $750 million over the next year.
Very excited about the opportunity that this presents us with to deepen the engagement within our communities and in the various segments of our population, trying very hard to respond to the economic impact of COVID-19. And we look forward to working with all our partners.
With the unveiling of the Abuja rice pyramids, Nigerian-grown rice is export-bound in the shortest time. Manufacturers are also improving on their products. In case you are targeting the bigger African markets, these export tips might just be useful for you.
So today I'll be giving tips to small businesses that are interested in participating in international trade. And here I'm talking about export. We have a couple of small businesses that have interest actually in entering the export market. Now, these are just tips. The first I would say is, one, you need to be a registered business. You must be legally registered. So how many of you watching this right now as a small business, even if you're a startup, how many of you are legally registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission? It's very important that your business is registered if you are to participate in export. Secondly, you must also obtain a license, an export license from the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. It's very key that you have a license because that also gives you the permission to export, and then you are traceable as well because your name is on record in your own country as an exporting company or an exporting SME. So it's important as well that you are a tax-paying SME. Now, many of our small businesses still don't understand what tax really means and how they can actually pay taxes. Now, this is something I'll give you an assignment on. You need to find out how you can begin to, get tax compliant, even as a small business. It's very important. And it's important because your buyers, those that are outside there in other countries, they value the fact that you are also compliant in your own country. How is your online presence like? Do you have a website? Can you be found easily by those that want to buy your products? That's a good question. I've been to some websites, and what I see there is nothing to write home about. So if you want to start exporting either products or services, you need to have a lovely and functional website. And when I say functional, I mean your products must be well put there. Your services, anyone that is browsing your site should be able to get information. And while they're getting information, it's also important for you to translate some of the things you have on your website in other languages. Imagine this. Someone from an Arabian is looking for a product that you sell, or a product that you have on the market. And let's just assume that he cannot really read English. Or perhaps he's a Japanese or some other tribe, and he cannot read English. He should be able to check your website and also find that information in other languages. There are services like that. Now, don't forget, I'm talking to a small business or an SME that is interested in export. And these are the requirements of the international market. You must be able to interpret some of the content on your website so that someone that is visiting it for the first time is able to get the information in their own language. So I give you that challenge as well. Try and explore that.
Let's now go to the Nigerian Group Exchange and see what transpired in the course of the week, as Uche Uwaleke, a professor of capital markets, is waiting to give analysis.
The week has witnessed substantial, I would say, considerable positive market sentiment, especially if you measure it by the number of advancers and decliners. We've had, on the average, more gainers than losers. The week is also ending on a strong note, closing at 0.115 on Friday. Minus Monday, when we saw a slight depreciation in the All-Share Index. The rest of the week, has been positive. We are talking about Tuesday through Friday. And it's also important to mention that on Wednesday, the market witnessed very strong, positive performance, closing at 1.73%, such that week on week, we are talking about a gain, for investors, of about 3.35%. That's week on week. And recall that the previous week was also positive. The market ended on a positive note, gaining 1.37%. So if you add what we have had so far in 2022, we are looking at a year-to-date return of 7.58%. And that's quite remarkable if you compare this period with the corresponding period of 2021, and I see the performance of the market closing quite strong this month. For the week, you could point to, yes, industrial stocks. Dangote Cement has been quite active. Dangote, Cadbury, Jais Bank, these are stocks that showed a lot of promise, during the week. And if you're looking at the indexes, I mentioned industrial stocks earlier. The insurance index also did well. Except for the oil and gas, many of those indexes, performed quite well, during the week. And looking ahead into next week, I also see the same, playing out, the same bargain hunting, positive sentiment, being sustained next week. And that's because as we know, the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, will be meeting next week. And the market has already anticipated the outcome. The MPC is not likely to change any of the rates. So because the status quo will be held, that has already been taken into cognizance, if you like, in the market action. So I see next week also ending on a positive note, just as we had this week. And overall, the month of January is going to show some positive performance, relative to what we had this time in 2021.
Business 24 for this week, and thank you so much for being part of it. I am Shikeola Ikmenaye. Keep talking business and keep safe.